My name is Kanye West. Right now, I'm just sitting here, staring at this blank screen. The cursor blinks like it's daring me to say something real, not fiction, not thrillers, just the truth. People know me as the writer who keeps them up at night, flipping pages. But today, I'm not telling a made-up story. Today, I'm writing my story. And it's not pretty, but it's mine. My mum, Claire Vollmont, was everything the world adored. She was dazzling, the kind of woman who could walk into a room and instantly own it. People worshipped her. I used to sit in the living room and watch her on TV, wondering how someone so perfect could be my mother. But I didn't know back then that TV lies, that people lie. I was born with a cleft lip. I had surgery when I was just a baby, but the scars never really left. Not just the ones on my face, but the ones inside. And to my mum, I was a flaw, something to cover up. "We can't let anyone see you like this," she'd say, pressing a medical mask over my face like she was sticking a sticker on a cracked vase. "You understand, right? It's for your own good." I didn't understand. Not at first. Our house was huge, cold, quiet, beautiful in the way museums are beautiful, things you're not allowed to touch. I lived in a bedroom on the top floor, my own little cell. The only person who ever really spoke to me was Mrs. Jenkins, the housekeeper. She was kind, nervous, always tiptoeing around like the floor was full of landmines. One afternoon, I heard my mum on the phone. Her voice, so sweet, so fake. "Yes, poor thing," she said. "She's always sick, some severe immune disorder. We're doing everything we can." I remember just standing there, frozen in the hallway, hearing the lie land like a knife. That's when it clicked. I wasn't just being hidden, I was being erased. As for my dad, he was long gone. After the divorce, he moved on with a new wife, a new life, and no room for a son like me. I used to imagine him crashing through the front door like some kind of hero, yelling, "I'm here, let's go!" But that fantasy faded. He never came. No school, no friends. Just a tutor who came to our house and reminded me to wear my mask before every lesson. I turned 10 that year. I asked Mum something I'd never dared to ask before. "If you hate me so much, why don't you just send me to Dad?" She laughed, not kindly, that cold, hollow laugh. "And let the world think I abandoned my dying child? No, Kanye, that wouldn't be good for my image." That night, I cried into my pillow until I couldn't breathe. I realised I wasn't her son. I was her secret, her shame. But even back then, I knew one thing. I wouldn't be her secret forever. Most mornings started the same. I'd wake up to the quiet sounds of a mansion pretending to be a home. Slip on my mask like it was just another piece of clothing, and wait for Mrs. Jenkins to bring in breakfast. She'd always smile when she walked in, but her eyes, they told the truth. "Good morning, dear," she'd say, setting the tray down gently like it might shatter. "Your mother left early for a shoot." Of course she did. She never stayed long enough to notice me. When she was around, it was like I didn't exist. Or worse, I existed only as a problem to manage. Sometimes I'd ask Mrs. Jenkins about the world outside. Anything. The weather, the garden, even traffic. "Are the flowers blooming?" I asked one morning, just to feel something other than silence. She paused, looking toward the window. "Yes, the roses are out. I wish you could see them." But I couldn't. I wasn't allowed near the windows unless the curtains were drawn. Wishing was useless in my world. I'd watch TV and see kids my age riding bikes, laughing, scraping their knees, doing normal stuff. It made my chest ache. I wanted that life. A stupid, messy, beautiful, normal life. But I could still hear Mum's voice in my head. "Normal? You'll never be normal." That voice lived rent-free in my brain. Sometimes I'd push back in little ways, like one day I snuck out of my room without the mask. Just to feel air on my face, just to remind myself I was human. I didn't get far. Mum caught me standing near the staircase. Her eyes burned with rage. "What are you doing?" she snapped. "Do you want the whole world to see you like this?" "I just wanted some air," I whispered. "Air? You have a window. Use it." Then she shoved me back toward my room and slammed the door. "You're grounded. No TV for a week." That night, I curled up in bed and cried silently. That was my rebellion. 5 minutes without a mask and a week without cartoons. She didn't see me as her son. She saw me as a mistake she was trying to Photoshop out of her perfect life. But even in that darkness, I had one thing she couldn't take from me: writing. I wrote in spiral notebooks, short stories, journal entries, little fantasies where I was strong and free and loved. My words became the only place where I existed the way I wanted to. One evening, Mrs. Jenkins came in while I was scribbling like my life depended on it. She watched quietly before saying, "You know, you're really good at that." I looked up, surprised. "You think so?" "I know so," she said, voice steadier than usual. "You've got a gift and something to say. Don't stop." That moment hit me hard. It was the first time anyone said I had something worth sharing. It gave me a weird kind of hope. And let me tell you, hope is dangerous in a cage. It makes you dream. And dreaming in a prison, that'll either save you or wreck you. Still, I kept dreaming. I started to picture life beyond those walls. A place where I wasn't just a hidden scar, but a whole person. And then, one Tuesday, out of nowhere, it happened. The lifeline. The phone rang. That thing barely rang. It was like a prop collecting dust. Mrs. Jenkins picked it up. Her face went pale as she listened. Then she walked toward me, her voice trembling. It's your father." Those words nearly knocked the air out of me. My father. The ghost. The man I built fantasies around, and now he was calling. I stared at the phone like it might explode. My hands were shaking as I took the receiver from Mrs. Jenkins. "Hello?" My voice cracked. "Kanye?" The voice on the other end was deeper than I remembered. Softer, too. "It's me. Your dad." Silence stretched between us. My throat tightened. "I saw your mum on TV," he continued. She said you were dying." I closed my eyes. Of course she did. I remembered the exact segment. I'd seen it too, hidden in my room, watching her wipe fake tears from her cheeks. "My poor son," she said to the world. "His condition is deteriorating. We don't know how long he has." It was award-worthy. A flawless performance, but it was all lies. "I'm not dying, Dad," I said, trying not to scream. "I'm right here." There was a long pause on the other end. Then he said something I never thought I'd hear. I'm sorry for not being there. I want to fix this. How would you feel about coming to live with me?" I almost dropped the phone. Did he just say I could leave? Like, actually leave? "Yes," I answered, the word bursting out of me. "I want to come." The days after that moved like a dream on fast forward. Dad showed up with his wife, Linda, a woman who looked warm, kind, and real. She didn't smile for the cameras. She smiled for me. "We're here for you," she said, touching my hand. It was simple, but it felt like a promise. Mum stood in the doorway as I packed my few things. She didn't say anything. Not a goodbye, not a fight. She just stared as if I were a character walking out of a show she no longer wanted to direct. I looked back once, hoping, maybe for regret, maybe for love. But she had already turned away, vanishing into her glittery world of makeup and mirrors. Stepping into Dad's car was like crossing through some invisible wall. The air felt different, lighter. I looked out the window the whole ride, watching the world go by. For the first time, I was in it, not locked away from it. Living with Dad and Linda was strange at first, but in the best way. No masks, no secrets, just me, learning how to be me. One night at dinner, a real dinner with conversation and laughter, Linda turned to me and asked, "What do you like to do? You know, for fun?" I froze for a second. No one had ever asked me that before. Not like they actually cared. "I write," I said finally. "Stories." Her eyes lit up. "That's amazing. You should share some with us." In that moment, something clicked. For the first time, I didn't feel like a burden. I felt seen. Life with them wasn't perfect. Nothing is. But it was real. I was allowed to laugh, allowed to cry, allowed to be angry. And I was angry. A lot. Angry at Mum. Angry at how I'd grown up. Angry that I still flinched when someone touched my face. But something inside me was shifting. Slowly. like the first cracks in a frozen lake before it starts to melt. A few weeks into living with Dad and Linda, things started to settle. I was still getting used to waking up without hearing silence, still adjusting to being around people who actually looked me in the eye. But something was changing. One night, Dad sat me down after dinner. His face looked serious, like he'd been rehearsing this conversation for days. "Kanye," he started gently, "we've been thinking about finding someone who can help you. Not just with your scar, but everything else too." My whole body tensed up. I knew where this was going. Doctors, hospitals, people poking and prodding and whispering like I couldn't hear. "I'm tired of doctors," I snapped, sharper than I meant to. He didn't flinch. "I get that. I really do. But this isn't about making you into something you're not. It's about helping you move forward." Linda chimed in, her voice soft. "You've been through more than most people ever will. We want you to have the space to heal, inside and out." I didn't answer right away. But later that night, I sat in my new room, looking at my reflection, at the scar, the pain, the years of hiding, and I realized I wanted more. So I said yes. They found one of the best clinics in the state. And that's how I met Dr. Avery, a surgeon who didn't talk down to me or treat me like a broken project. He looked me in the eye and said, "This isn't about changing you. It's about helping you see yourself without the weight of everything they made you believe." That stuck with me. The surgery wasn't easy. It hurt. Recovery took time. But when I looked in the mirror afterward, something shifted. I didn't see a monster. I didn't see shame. I saw me. For the first time, I shared some of my mum's features. The same jawline, the same eyes. It was weird, almost poetic. But unlike her, I wasn't pretending. Still, fixing the outside was only part of it. The real work happened in therapy. That's where I met Dr. Klein. She didn't ask me surface questions or nod politely while looking at a clipboard. She challenged me. She listened when I said nothing. One day, I broke down in her office, like full-on tears, shaking, the whole thing. I'm just so angry," I said, choking on the words. Angry at her, at the world, at myself for believing her lies. Dr. Klein handed me a tissue but didn't rush me. "It's okay to be angry," she said, "but you get to decide what you do with that anger. You don't have to carry it forever." That idea, it felt like a key in a lock I didn't even know was there. Slowly, something inside me started to uncoil. Linda noticed it first. One evening, she smiled at me from across the table. "You're smiling more," she said. "It looks good on you."